Hey Denise, how you doing today?
How are you, David? It's so good to see you again.
I'm good. As you're recording this, I got an email from my HOA. I live in Park City, Utah, and they said the largest storm ever
Oh,
in Park City is expected this weekend. So we're expected 48 inches of snow in 2 days. That's an inch an hour.
oh my
And with
God.
45-mile-an-hour winds. And they said, we're sorry, but our plows aren't going to be able to keep up with this. I just
Oh,
came back from Whole Foods with like sacks of food because I might be marooned for a
you're
while.
like,
So
you're going to be in survival mode. Well, I'm in LA. It was 40 degrees when I woke up, and I thought I was like in the dead of winter, got my big coat out. So, yeah, but that's a different level.
yeah. Well, LA 40 degrees is survival
It's,
mode. I mean, come on.
yes, I know. We're suffering for sure.
Ooh.
Well, good luck with that. That's scary, actually.
I mean, if it happens the way they're saying, if they're not going to be able to open the ski resorts or like anything else,
Wow.
there's just going to be like too much. So, well, whatever.
Ooh,
There's always,
scary times. Good luck with that.
Netflix.
Exactly. You can catch up on some good shows.
Okay. So let's introduce you to the SuperAge audience. Tell me a little bit about some of your background and your journey
Mhm.
and where you are now.
Okay, so I'm a middle-aged woman. I'm 53 years old. I'll start there. I had been on a transformation journey. So I think what women do is they do two things in life. They put their needs on hold for often either they're raising a family or they're focused on a career. I had been focused on my career. I was an entrepreneur. And I'd kind of ignored myself, right, for a few decades, like a lot of women do. And at age 49, the things that used to work no longer worked. It's a very common story. Perimenopause hit. I gained a lot of weight over a period of about 4 years. And in the middle of COVID, I just decided that was enough. And I started on the same day tracking macros, eating more protein, and working out with weights, which I had never done before.
I want to stop you. What
Yes.
provoked that moment when it was like, this is okay to this is not okay? What happened there?
Well, I think it was a few things. One, I was home, and like a lot of people during COVID, I was coping even more with food and, frankly, alcohol. I was drinking wine almost every night.
Mm.
For a couple months during COVID, I told myself I was European, and that was fine because that's what the Europeans do. But right, a lot of
Not
us
all
drink more during
Europeans.
COVID, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I had gained 15 pounds like within a few months. And the biggest thing for me, and I've talked about this, my aha moment was I had to take off my wedding rings because my fingers grew too large for them. And there was something that clicked in me, and I was like, this is just enough. I've had it. I had hit my threshold. And from then on, I sought out a way to change my life. And I had actually seen, I'll share with you, I saw Joan McDonald on Instagram, right? And she started weight
I
training at
love
70
Joan.
years old. Yes, I saw
Yeah.
her photos and I could not get it out of my mind. And I was like, I want to do what she's doing, right? So I sought
Hmm.
out macros. I started lifting weights the same day. And within 8 months, I had lost actually about 9 months, 55 pounds. And I had increased my muscle mass more than anything. The most important thing was I was getting strong. And along the way, I had fallen in love with bodybuilding. And I ended up competing from the day I started 27 months later in my first bodybuilding competition. So it's been a remarkable journey. And then from there, I ended up leaving the company that I had formed 22 years ago. I founded a new company aimed at helping midlife women get strong in their bodies because I think that's critical as we age. So my company, Rebellion Body, was founded this year to help other women get strong too.
I want to go right at some of this.
Okay.
There are a couple things that people get stuck on with this.
Yes.
The one is the weight number, the
Yes.
poundage, which is something I like to stay away from. I don't really think that's the issue here, but
Agree.
talk to me about the number. Like that was the number that you referenced. So talk
Yes.
to me a little bit about that.
First of all, I think we all need to be comfortable in our bodies. I felt uncomfortable in my body because I had gained, so much weight over a period of 4 years. I was like most women. I had those clothes in my closet. I wanted them to fit again, right? I'd kept those old clothes. I personally think if you want to lose weight and that's a goal, there's nothing wrong with that. We all have that choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was a goal of mine. But more importantly, as I had gained weight, my health declined. And what did that look like? I became pre-diabetic.
Mm.
I started having joint pain in my knees specifically. Unfortunately, I have 50 stairs from the ground level to my front door. I had to go up and down the stairs every day. It had become painful. So I had gone to the doctor and he said, you have arthritis in your knees and you need to lose weight to take this pressure off your joints. I had to stop about 20 stairs up, right? Each time I would get so exhausted. So it wasn't just about the weight, but in order to improve my health and increase, make these health markers improve, that was one of the parts of my journey that was necessary for me. And it did improve.
You mentioned you were pre-diabetic,
Yes.
and I got to remember, I can't pull the statistic out of my head here, but it's something like 80% of Americans are in some form of metabolic disease, diabetes being one of them, and pre-diabetic would also be sort of categorized in that. How did your pre-diabetic state, how did that change with your transformation? How did that happen?
I started really paying attention and being intentional about what I ate and really monitoring. I mean, before, honestly, it was like there was a lot of pizza. I was a binge eater. I mean, I've been honest about this. I was an emotional and binge eater. The way I would deal with stress was I would eat, and it would happen late at night, and I'd go in my pantry, and if there was a bag of chips or a big thing of chocolate, I'd eat the entire thing, right? It wasn't like a little, like it would be the whole thing. And so clearly that caused it. So when I started eating more protein, I really prioritize protein. I can't stress enough how important that is for muscle building and retention. I cleaned up my diet. I really aim to eat 80% whole natural foods. Then when I got my blood work done again, after it was probably a year later, I was in the normal range. So, I wasn't very good about even getting my blood work done regularly then. Now I do it twice a year. That's really part of my health regimen to really monitor. I take supplements based on what my blood work says. And I think you have to be intentional like this if you want to age strong and healthy and vibrantly.
I agree 100%. I just want to circle back to this.
Yes.
Because I think people confuse vanity appearance, and there's nothing wrong with vanity. I think if vanity is going to get you healthy, bring it on.
Right, exactly.
But it's fine.
Yeah.
If that's the channel that's going to get you there, right on. But I think there's people confuse appearance with health. And one of the things about building muscle, I'm going to diagnose you. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist, but I'm just going to diagnose you here. Sort of two things happen. You reduce the glycemic load in the food that you were eating.
Yes.
That cut down the glucose and the insulin resistance, essentially, that you were experiencing in your body. And by building muscle, so muscles does a lot of things for us. Besides like helping us lift things up and be confident, it's a glucose sink. It's the biggest glucose sink in our body. So the more muscle you have, the more glucose your body can handle before you go into overload. One of the things that I found most surprisingly recently is that if you have these glucose spikes, they're going to cause inflammation through your whole body. Very bad. It causes all kinds of long-term problems. But it also seems the carbohydrate load. There's nothing, I eat a lot of carbohydrates because I need them for energy. Essential.
Yeah.
But it will convert to your blood lipids. So your LDL, your ApoB, stuff like that's going to go up. And one of the more interesting things is by building muscle and eating more protein, for a lot of people, their lipid levels go down. In a way, counterintuitive, but that seems to be what happens.
Yes. And I also think eating 5 times a day helps to keep those levels more level, right? That really has improved things as well. And I eat protein dose throughout the day to really help with protein synthesis. And I think all those things together combined with the weight training, that really makes a huge difference.
I can be very prescriptive with people about like sleep and fitness and some other things. Food is really personal.
It
so
is.
I know some people that are Olympic level sort of athletes, and they'll eat like once a day or twice a day. That doesn't work for me. I have to sort of eat all the time. I think that this sort of goes into like know your body, which is what you're talking about. Like,
yes,
get to know what works for you, and different things work for different people.
I agree with that. And I talk about this a lot where I feel like I didn't really learn about my body till I was 50, which is kind of weird because you're living in this body for 50 years. But you know what? I didn't really have to pay attention because I could just go along my day, right? And I was relatively healthy most of my life. And then all of a sudden, your hormones start to change, menopause happened, things change. And what you have to do is start learning about yourself, what works for you, getting very in tune with your body, and being intentional about your health. That is required if you're going to age well.
100%. And I strangely come upon a number of people who are either afraid to learn about how this works. They're not dumb. I mean, it's not like they can't learn. They just sort of afraid of it. And then they also don't believe they have agency in the situation. This is just some grim reality that must be accepted, and they can't have any effect on it.
Yes. And that's the narrative we have to change. I would even go so far as to say, if a doctor tells me to do something now, I really don't immediately say yes. I think about it. And I sit with it and I think about if that's the right choice for me. And sometimes the answer is no. Because we know, I believe, if we can really tune into what's going on with us, we know best, right, what works for us. For instance, I had a doctor say I needed to go off gluten. I was having some gut issues, so I wanted to explore that. I did. I was worse. My stomach like bloated. I was worse. And I was like, you know what? No, that isn't right for me. I stopped eating gluten. I felt 100 times better, right? So it's not always just about getting the healthcare. It's then doing that check and saying, yeah, but is that right for me? Because we are all unique. There is not one size fits all when it comes to health.
I think one of the biggest changes, like since I was young, where our practitioners were just sort of something that they worked in this sort of mysterious sort of Wizard of Oz behind the curtain sort of thing, to now I feel like they're partners, and they're highly informed, highly educated. They're really good ones. Yeah, we need them. We need these people. And then to sort of work back and forth, and if it suggests something, I'll, if I'm going to try something new, if I think I'm not quite sure what it's going to do to me, I'll contact one of my docs and say, hey, I'm thinking about this. What do you think? Is this okay? And I wait till I hear back from them.
You have a good doctor. I think those are harder to find, right? I think the ones that are interactive really in that way, I do think it's a trend. I think it's becoming more common, but there's still too few. There's still way too few. It's not. I still hear from women all the time that even have a hard time getting their hormones tested. They don't know where to go, right? Like, because their doctor doesn't want to do it.
Oh my God, don't get me started on that. Yeah.
Well, oh my God. Like all the controversial things.
OBGYNs. I mean, my wife goes through this. She has an OBGYN who she told me what the doc said to her. And I said, this woman's a moron. Like, fire her. Like, what is she talking about? And okay, sort of harsh words, but there's a lot of OBGYNs who are just essentially they're fertility doctors.
Yeah.
And menopause and premenopause and how to manage hormonal transition it's just not in the playbook. And it's hard to find people who are. You're correct.
Yes. And you know what we're seeing a lot of, and I actually really love this, is if you go now on Instagram, there's a lot of women who are doctors who are very outspoken about this is what happens to your body in menopause. And they're really focusing on educating women. We didn't have that exposure before, and they have these huge followings because women want this information. And you would think you're getting it from your doctor, but that's just not always the case. So I love to see this trend of these popular menopause doctors who are really sharing, this is what you're going through and this is why, and this is what you can do about it. We need more of that. And I think we're only going to see more of it because women really want to learn these things.
For people out there, finding the right practitioners is really hard. I'm sort of going through this with a GP who's in my locale and asking around, and I'll say, I'm trying to figure out, like, how do I screen? One of the screens I sort of thought of was like, okay, send me the blood tests that you do on intake. And of course, you never get to talk to the doc. You get to talk like somebody in the front, and they're like, well, that'll be determined by your visit. And it's like, well, no, don't you just have like a standard thing? Like, what's the panel?
Right.
And they're like, well, no, you got to. So that was my adventure today. It's hard. And I think, especially with women's health, for so many reasons, it's extra hard.
I agree. And what I have found is sometimes the best person is not local to you. And so I've been taking advantage of, like, one of my doctors is in Florida. I'm in California. Right. So I will do these telehealth appointments and I'll get the blood work here done locally. So I would tell people, if you can't find someone that you think is great in your area, I think you can do a lot remotely. I really do.
That's a great suggestion. Let's go to We Are Ageist Instagram. We profiled you 2 weeks ago. It was great. Wonderful.
Thank you.
So if anybody hasn't read that, go to ageist.com and you'll see this amazing profile of Denise in her majestic red dress in Tulum.
Oh, thank you. Fantastic. That was a moment. I had a moment in that dress.
Oh, you did good. It was good. You worked it.
It was fun. Yeah.
We put a post up about that.
Yes.
And we got a lot of comments.
You
want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So it's funny because when I really did not expect it to be controversial. I really didn't. But then after I started seeing some of the comments, I wasn't totally surprised because I have had some posts on my Instagram. When it goes to a wider audience, sometimes you hit people that aren't looking for like a fitness content and you get these variety of comments. So there was a lot of comments about you looked better before, because we had a before and after. You looked fine, right? They were very weight focused. There were people that said you shouldn't show women, with a barbell doing squats because that's very unapproachable for other women. And then there was a controversy about even showing a before and after. So it was very interesting for me to read those. My first thought was, and I think this is true, I think if I were 25 or 35, some of those comments wouldn't have happened. Because I do feel like we have normalized my before body as what midlife women look like, right? It's kind of, I wasn't super overweight. I was technically overweight. My BMI was overweight. But then you see me muscular and in a bikini, and at 53, that's not what someone should be doing. I do feel there is some of this ageism in those comments. I really do feel that. I also think, we're very focused on, well, you were fine before. Why did you do that? You were fine. I wasn't fine, right? I was pre-diabetic. I woke up exhausted. I felt like crap most days, right? My quality of life was poor. So I think we need to get beyond what you see and realize that this was a health journey. It was about getting strong. Yeah. This is about living vibrantly as we age. And the person that I was before was not on that path, right? I was on a downward spiral, if anything. So again, those two things really bothered me, that we're not willing to look below the surface and maybe this wasn't just about weight, right? It's about getting strong. Let's focus on, I'm obviously more muscular. But two, I think part of it was my age. And I think seeing a 53-year-old woman in a bikini is unacceptable. For a percent of the population, I do.
Oh, I have so much to say about this.
I know. We could just talk for hours on this one, right? I know.
I agree. And I think that the weight thing is totally triggering. And I understand why.
Yes, I do too.
I would really like to move all discussion of this area away from the weight thing, because I just think it twists people up. The health problems, pre-diabetes, things like this. So there are people who do not really retain subcutaneous fat, which is what we normally see as fat. And instead, what they do is they store their fat viscerally. Genetically, some people just don't see it on the outside of their body, but it's on the inside of their body. So they're essentially skinny fat people. That visceral fat is around their organs, and it's going to cause exactly the same problems as it does with somebody who carries their weight on the outside in a subcutaneous manner, which is more visible to us. But both of these things are health conditions. Right. And the health consequences of being overweight, of having visceral fat, are well documented.
Right.
So we're talking about heart disease, we're talking about cancer, we're talking about Alzheimer's, we're talking about diabetes, not to mention feeling horrible all the time. So this is something, the body positivity movement, which on the one hand is love yourself the way you are. And I'm 100% behind that.
Me too.
I think the only way you or Joan or really anyone that I've spoken to who's gone through this, that's like sort of step one. Like, I'm worth it. I'm gonna do this for me.
Right.
On the
you
other
have
hand,
to, by the way, really love yourself to do a transformation. It comes from loving yourself. Yes.
That's right. That's right. And I think that's the first step, saying to yourself, I am worth this and I can do this. So those are sort of the two things that one has to, get in mind. But back to this body positivity thing, quite frankly, this is BS. It makes me, I know I'm going to get all kinds of hate mail because I'm saying this, but
I'm like, oh, you're going there. Oh boy. Okay, here we go.
I'm going there. Obesity is a disease state. Let's get real about that. What's happened here is because 70% of the population is overweight, 30% is obese, and a large fraction of that is morbidly obese. Yes. We have normalized this. We've said that, on average. Now, suppose on average, people smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day. We'd say that's okay.
Right.
No, we would not. That's what's going on here. I think that there's a lot of issues here. There's the food supply, there's the sort of advertising, there's like a lot of stuff that goes into this, and it is not people's fault. And I really want to emphasize that.
I agree with you.
An enormous amount of pressures on this. Like, as you said, the emotional pressure, oh, I'm just going to eat something, or the societal pressure of, it's just like on and on and on. That does not make it right. I feel rather strongly about this.
I know.
As I spent a year in a hospital with an autoimmune thing, like, you do not want this. And that's the trajectory. Hospital beds, tubes, bad stuff, nasty. You know, my mom died of cancer. This is not where you want to go. Julie, who we've had on the program, has said, you get to pick your hard. And that's really hard.
No, I agree.
So
I totally
I'm going to
agree.
shut up. That's the end of my soapbox.
No, I get that. And I think, right, it's a problem we have in this country. Other countries aren't like this, right, to this extent. So I don't know what the solution is. But again, I think it goes back to, we all have to be intentional about our health. And it is about health. Yeah. It really is about health. We get one life. And you want to be able to live it fully.
Right. That's
fully, right? That's my whole thing. I want to be like 90 and being able to climb up my stairs and it not be a problem, and like really get all the juice out of life. And you can't do that if you're not healthy.
I just want to tell people, like, all you guys out there who are listening to this and thinking like, oh my God, this guy is like some moralist asshole. No. Well, I may be a moralist asshole, but
you care.
I care. I want you guys to have the best possible life you can. Yes. This is, of course, everybody likes to look good. You want to look in the mirror and be like, oh yeah, I look great. That's just part of this. It's a very small part of it. What I want you to be is healthy. I want you to feel great about yourselves. I don't want you going in for dialysis or some kind of stuff. Like, you don't want that. And this is hard. Like, what we're talking about here, being intentional, understanding our bodies, you know, we're these practitioners. It requires work. It's hard. Oh, which brings me to the question. I want to ask you, because a lot of times I have a lot of fun, so they know I have fun. But I want to ask you, like, you know, what you're talking about here is you got to sleep, you got to, you know, there's like a lot of food you don't eat, you got to like go to the gym, but it's not all like, you know, hair shirt sort of stuff, right? Like this allows you to have fun, allows you to have recreation.
Oh, exactly. No, and to do it fully, right? You can travel. Right. I feel I have, you know what it is? This is the most important thing. I have energy. Yeah. And I didn't before. And that honestly changes everything. I would wake up in the morning tired, like after sleeping. You know, I just opened my eyes and I'd be tired before. And now I wake up and I'm ready to go. And you know what? I'm excited about my life and my future. Because when you go through a transformation and you have to be disciplined, right? If you're going to not give up on yourself, you're going to show up for yourself every day. You got to create these habits and you're disciplined. You're also working on your mindset while you're doing this. And I have goals and dreams for my future now that are very compelling, that I would never have been bold enough to dream before, right? I mean, I am excited about my life and I have energy to execute these things. That is the gold that comes from transformation. It's not about me standing there in a bikini and feeling like, okay, whatever. This is what makes it worth it. This mindset, this attitude, this excitement for what's to come. Because if you're in your 50s or even your 60s or 70s, you might have decades left. We're not just going to sit in a corner, right? Like we want to live this life. That's what it's about.
I think that's so beautiful. What you've done through your Instagram and the work that you've done, and really for anyone who does something like this, you've expanded your own personal imagination of what's possible.
Yes.
But you've let other people know, and this is the whole reason Ageist exists, is because we say like, this is now on the menu. You can do this. Yes. You don't have to do it. You can do whatever you want to do. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But if you want to, you can do this. And everyone who's listening out there who thinks you're invisible, I got news for you. You're not. No. People see you wherever you go. And if you follow your dreams, if you do things like what Denise did, people see that. And if you don't, people also see that. Anytime you leave the house, you're sending out a message. You are not invisible. And the work that you do on yourself is contagious.
It
sends a ripple through everyone. You guys count. You really count. That's another reason why this is important.
Agree. Every person makes a difference in this world. Every single one, right? People tell me I inspire them, which to me, is one of my biggest life's honors, right? I get emotional about that. But I'm not special. It's just because I showed up for myself and I was consistent. Yeah. And people saw that I could do it and they started to believe they could do that too. Mm-hmm. We all have that power. There is nothing special about what I've done. I wasn't like any sort of an athlete, right? I'm just a normal woman. Like, we can all do that. And if you set the example and more people believe, man, you can really make a dent in this narrative that like we have no living left to do in midlife, that it's all about decline. Like, we can really change what this looks like. And that's the impact I want my life to have.
Going back to something you said earlier, which I agree with, that a lot of the sort of pushback you're getting is because of your age. This idea that, and I think it's multifold here, that
it is
either a woman cannot or worse, should not.
Should not, absolutely should not. Yeah,
which is a whole other sort of like, I don't know, if that's the patriarchy or some kind of Calvinist BS, or I don't know what that's about, but that's definitely a vibe out there.
Oh, it is. It is. And it's not just me. You see any other woman in midlife who's wearing a short dress, or even Joan gets this, her little athletic outfit she looks amazing in. I know she loves to be fashionable, dress cute. I see that she gets this backlash. When did we decide that at a certain age you had to fit this mold? And if you didn't, it just was totally unacceptable. Like, why can't we wear what we feel good in? Who cares? But you know what the beauty is about midlife is? And I'm sure you've experienced this too. When I hit 50, I stopped caring. You just don't care anymore, right? What people think.
So, I still care. I absolutely care.
I'm like, I'm going to wear what I'm going to wear. And if you don't like it, that's okay with me. I'm okay with that, right? But it is a thing. And why I want to highlight this is I want to change this narrative. I think it all goes back to this narrative about decline. That's what we're supposed to do, is decline. And if you're not declining and you're wearing things you're not supposed to, you have muscle and all this stuff, it's a problem. It shouldn't be. I want it to be like, midlife can look amazing. It can look like anything you want it to look like. My saying is, my followers know this, I always say we get to choose. We get to choose how we age. And I choose to age strong. And you know what? I work damn hard. And if I'm going to wear a short dress sometimes, I'm going to wear a short dress. That's okay.
One of the other things that I've heard is that, she's just trying to look like she's 20. She wants to be that age again.
Yes.
What's up with that?
I have no idea. I think, again, it's about that's acceptable, right? I get that I'm narcissistic. Right? That I'm putting myself out there in bikinis, or that I want attention. Frankly, I had a comment today on that post that said, I look like a porno model. I'm wearing a bikini, right? And I commented back, I don't actually know what that looks like, so I'll have to take your word for that. But, it's like, it is triggering. And I think it's just about, you get to midlife and it's supposed to look a certain way. And if it doesn't, it's just not acceptable. It's just not acceptable.
Again, I'm going to get some hate mail for what I'm going to say here.
No, okay.
I get hate mail. It's all right.
That's okay. You know what? I'll tell you this real quick. I actually like when I get these comments, because what I have realized in social media, if you walk the middle ground and you're just not saying anything controversial, you're not inspiring anybody. If you want to inspire someone and be on one end of the spectrum, the opposite end of the spectrum is you're offending. And I know when I'm offending people or I get these comments, that's a good post, because now I'm inspiring others. And I'm willing to offend in order to inspire. That to me is a good trade-off.
I just want to make the distinction here between acceptance and shaming.
Yes.
All right? Shaming, no go. I don't care what you're up to with that. That's not acceptable. You're not shaming people for their gender, for their weight, for their religious beliefs, for any of that. Stop that crap. That's different than what we're talking about here. I just want to be clear about that.
I agree with absolutely 100%. We have to love each other and ourselves, right?
Yeah.
I think as a society, we're so caught up in the physical and the appearance that we just miss what's important a lot. I think that's the overreaching thing. And again, I think what we're both saying and what's most important is that if you want to live a long, vibrant life, you've got to be healthy and strong.
So let's go to one of the sort of misconceptions here is,
Yes.
and we get this a lot. It's if you're a woman and you lift weight, especially you lift heavy weight,
Yes.
you're going to turn into Arnold.
Yes.
By the way, Arnold only looked like Arnold because he was on massive doses of anabolics.
I know.
Even Arnold doesn't look like Arnold.
No, exactly. He doesn't look like he used to, right? No, and all those weightlifters of the 80s and 90s, they were all on who knows what. But no, that's absolutely true. There's this thing about bulking, and I get this all the time from women. I don't bulk up. I don't want to bulk up. I don't want to get bulky. And someone said once, that's like saying you don't want to drive a car because you're going to become Michael Schumacher, right? Like it doesn't happen. Like right? Like or you don't want to swim because you don't want to become Michael Phelps. You have to be for a decade or more. That's your entire existence, right? You are so dedicated at this. Believe me, like the average person, that's never going to happen. And what I can tell you is what I have learned, and I still have women that I coach, they'll say, I don't want to work my legs because I get bulky really easily. A lot of times that's because it's not just the muscles are growing real fast. Like you're not, genetically so different than everybody else that your muscles are all of a sudden growing at this exceptional rate. It's that a lot of times it's about losing the body fat so you reveal the muscle, right? A lot of times it's like you weren't the size maybe that you wanted to be in the beginning, and then you start to lift weight and you start to see a little bit of definition, and it's about to see that muscle, you get lean. It's not that you're growing these enormous muscles initially. It's not. It's not a thing. It's not a thing. It's not going to happen.
I'm 5'11 and a half. I weigh 168 pounds. Well, I'm ski racing, so I don't lift weight like I used to, but start April, I will again. So, I'm in the gym 5 days a week. I eat a lot of protein. There is no reality on earth where I'm going to be in the NFL. Like I'm just that, my genetics aren't going to allow that.
No. And I've been, building 5 days a week for 3.5 years to gain. Now you get new big gains. New big gains are an amazing thing. You can build a lot of muscle your first year, but after that, it's very hard. And you build just a little bit every year, and you work very hard for that. So believe me, don't worry about getting bulky. It's not happening.
No. This is wonderful. I'm so glad you came on the show.
Me too.
I know
I
we're going to get a lot of feedback on this.
Well, we're just talking what's in our heart. It's,
A few years ago, we interviewed Dr. Connie Mariano for Aegis. She was the director of White House Medical under 3 presidents. First Filipino Rear Admiral, wonderful woman. And she's now has a medical practice in Arizona. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about, sort of the stuff we're talking about and about, getting people healthy. And she said, the favorite way to get women into the gym is if their daughters are getting married and they want to buff out their arms.
I love that.
She's like, we use the vanity to get them in there. And once they start going, we just keep them going.
Yes. Yes. And I think actually a lot of transformations start that way, right? You think I want to look better. And then you get into it and pretty quickly you realize it's not really about that. You start to feel better, right? You see these changes, you start to feel strong. And I will tell you, I didn't understand what feeling strong in my body felt like until I started lifting weights. And then it became addicting. I was like, I felt like I could do anything, right? I can carry my groceries up the 50 stairs with no problem. That was unthinkable before. I can go on a plane and know I can put that luggage in the overhead bin. That is not a problem for me. You start to feel really capable, and that is an amazing feeling. That's addicting.
I hurt my arm surfing, and I couldn't, my left arm sort of didn't work for about a year. Ooh. And I felt, terrible, tendonitis issues and repetitive motion from surfing. Surfing is really not surfing. Surfing is just endless swimming, essentially. People think it's all about riding this wave. Yeah. It's a lot of just battling. So, one of the things I noticed when my arm was hurt was how vulnerable I felt.
Yes.
I felt really vulnerable out in the world. And I noticed this vulnerability made me more fearful of not just physical things, but everything. like
Yes.
new ideas, new people. I just
Yes.
I didn't have the sort of elasticity to say like, oh, okay, that's all right. Let's think about that. Or, oh yeah, you're cool. All right. And then once my arm got better and I felt not vulnerable. So this sort of idea of strong body or feeling, having the sense that you feel strong within yourself, it goes across a lot of different other areas besides just being able to pick stuff up. It's your ability
100%.
to deal with new things that would be threatening or fearful to you. You're able to say just like, oh, okay, what's that like? What do you like? Like, tell me about yourself rather than just like, oh my God, I'm really scared. Stay away from me.
100%. I think that as you get strong, it builds confidence, right? In your mind, you
Yeah.
really feel more capable in your body, and
Mm-hmm.
therefore you feel more capable in life. And like I always say, it's like you climb one mountain. Like I got to that's when I did my first competition, or just like before that, when I was getting strong and I felt strong in my body, I felt like I'd climbed this mountain. And I was like, what's next? And then you start to see there's another mountain in the distance that you didn't even have a concept of before, because it builds upon itself. The more that you show that to yourself that you can do, the more you believe that you can do. And your dreams actually become bigger as you're building this confidence. It really, again, it's the biggest rewards. Yes, it's great to feel strong in my body. It's amazing. But the biggest rewards are these mindset rewards, these dreams that you have. And I'll say, I wanted to mention this before, and I'll say this really quickly. I find a resistance of women when I encourage my clients to have dreams, not just goals, but dreams. We just did a whole talk on this. And I'll ask my clients to dream and like share those with me. And they're very resistant to dream. I think we get used to not dreaming. And I think at some point in midlife, we tell ourselves we can't. And so I really challenge them to do that, right? Because I think that's very important. It's hard for people.
Scary.
I'm just realizing it is, but why can't we have dreams? Like we need to have things that are longer term, big things that drive us forward, creative things, right? That we can get really excited about. And I think that is another really key component to aging, to be excited about your future, I think is just really critical.
There's a graph that I read recently. One of my favorite books is called Philosophy for Polar Explorers. And it's a brilliant little book about this really articulate guy who walked to the North Pole with his buddy and then walked alone to the South Pole, and he climbed Everest. But that's not really what it's about. It's about having a dream and going forward and doing it. And he has this graph. On the one axis, it's capacity to carry things out. And on the bottom axis, it's the dream. The two lines cross in the middle, meaning that as we get older, we have much more capacity to carry these things out. But our imagination of our dream becomes less. And he says in there, it's easier to take the person out of the dream than to take the dream out of the person. And so we naturally remove ourselves from these dreams.
Right.
It's kind of scary. It's like, do I really want to say that? Do I want to claim that? I mean,
yes.
Who am I to say I want whatever? I have no right to say that. Well, yes, you do. It's your dream. It's not my dream. It's your dream. Own it. It's fine. Like go big. What do you want?
No, exactly. I mean, I also think, this, not to be morbid, but we're all going to be dead one day. Like no one's going to care what we did, right? Like you just live your life, because who cares? No one's going to remember at one point if you did it or not. Just do it. Do all those. Don't leave anything on the table. Do all the things that's in your heart's desire. At least try. And they ask people, right, when they're on their deathbeds, what their biggest regrets are. And it's the risks they didn't take, right? The things they didn't do that they wanted to. It's sad. Let's not do that.
If you're somebody out there who's thinking about like this fitness transformation thing, that'd probably be really good for me. I think I'll probably live longer. I'll live happier. It's good for my family. But then maybe some people around you are saying, oh, I'm lifting weights. I don't know if you're going to do that or wait.
Oh,
You don't want the pizza? Why don't you want the pizza? Your dreams are yours, not theirs. And, be careful about who you listen to about where you want to go, because it's about you. And like you said, you get one spin of the bottle here. That's it.
Yes.
Yes. How are you going to do it for you?
Exactly. And I think You might disagree, but I personally think even for women, it's harder because
Mm,
especially as mom, I'm not a mom, but I know a lot of moms, right? Go through this where they're used to giving everything for their children
yeah.
and they've
Right.
stopped thinking about what they want for themselves. Like that's just
Mm,
disappeared. And then when you start to challenge them in midlife and their kids are out of the house to like, okay, what do you want? Like they don't know. I go through this with my
it's
clients.
hard. Yeah.
I'm like, we got to come up with some things that are just for you, right? Like that's
Yeah.
important. You're still here. You've got decades left. You got to come up with some stuff just for you. It's your time. I say it's our time now, right? Like there's a beautiful thing about aging where now we really can just focus on ourselves, right? And it's not selfish, but like really just chase the things that are important to us. Our careers, if we're retiring or our kids are out of the house, it's our time now.
And I just want to speak about kids and parents. Even when the kids are out of the house, they're still watching you.
Yes.
And if you do something like, you're like, okay, it's time for me to like really care for myself and take care of myself. What kind of message is that sending to your kids? Pretty
Yep.
positive one, saying like, this
100%.
is possible. This can be done. Look at mom. Mom is kick ass. Like, that sounds like a pretty good role model.
100%. And you know what's kind of cool? I see a lot of young men now. I don't know if you've seen this too. Go to the gyms with their moms, and I hear a lot of these stories. I just love that.
Ooh, interesting. I
Yes.
haven't seen that. I love that idea though.
Yeah, I have a lot of clients, and I've talked to a lot of women that their sons will go show them how to use the equipment, and then they work out together. I
Yeah.
just love it. And I see a lot more younger people in the gym, like teenagers. I think it's awesome.
I love what you're doing, Denise. I want you to take a moment here, do a little self promo. What do you do and how can people contact you?
Yeah, so I started my company last year because I guess we're 2024 already. So the end of last year, Rebellion Body. So www.rebellionbody.com. I intentionally named my company Rebellion Body because we are rebelling against this narrative, right, of midlife. I say we are the rebels. And then also my Instagram is 50 Fitness Journey, FIFTY, 50 Fitness Journey. And what I do is transformation. I'm a transformation coach. I have a team of coaches, and we get women on a macronutrition plan. We make sure they eat protein. Most women undereat, the vast majority of women dramatically undereat protein. So we teach them what that looks like. And we get them on a workout program, from beginners. If you've never lifted a weight in your life, come to us and we'll help you. But my goal is, my number one goal for my company is to have impact and to change this narrative around aging and to educate women that if you want to live a full, vibrant life as you age, you need to get strong. It takes building muscle and getting strong. It really does. And I want women to age fearlessly. And that's our goal. That's what we're aiming to do.
I want all you guys out there, men and women who are listening to this, to become the best versions of yourselves today, the way you define it. Not the way I define it or Denise defines it, but the way you define it. And remember, we're talking about you today, not you 20, 30 years ago. Let's not compare that. Who you bringing to the table today? Let's see what we can do about that.
I love that.
Denise, it is such a pleasure. We'll put links in the show notes for people to contact you.
Thank you.
You are one of the great joys of my year. It's
Aw.
been just wonderful getting to know you. Really appreciate it.
Likewise. I hope to see you again. I really enjoy our conversations.
Absolutely. Take care now.
Thanks, David.